What do you feel is the best thing you've ever written, produced or not produced? Is there
Wow.
one thing where you're like, that is the best I'll ever be, or the best I've been so far?
You know, I don't know. It's hopefully I've written something that's better than other things. I don't know. I'd like Crash. I like Million Dollar Baby. Television. I like Easy Streets.
Right.
Yeah, I fall in love with whatever I'm writing, or whatever I've just written sometimes, because the writing process is a horrible, self-loathing process. But I don't know.
Fair enough. Do you feel like there's still something about yourself as a writer that you want to work on, or that you feel, is a particular weak spot?
Oh, drama, plot, character, you name it. No, you always. I can't watch any of my stuff without seeing all the flaws.
Right.
I can't watch Crash. I could never watch it.
Even after everyone says to you it's brilliant?
The first time I saw Crash, it was on a big screen at the Toronto Film Festival. We were up there selling it. I just finished cutting it the week before and doing a rough post. And I'd only seen it on the small screen before doing the Avids. And I sat there, and it screened great. It was a packed house. It was the Elgin. It was a huge. There were like 2,500, 3,000 people, and they were laughing. They were crying. The people were gasping. People would stop breathing for moments, and all I could see is what a big pile of crap I've created.
Right.
And so people came up to me afterwards and said, really, really good work, Paul. And I'm going, thank you very much. And just trying to get rid of them.
Right.
Just trying to get rid of them as they kept coming, because I know they're all lying to me.
Right. It didn't matter.
No,
you
they're
knew
lying.
what you knew.
And even if they're not, they're deluded.
Right.
And so Elvis Mitchell comes to me, and Elvis was a critic from the New York Times, and I just left, and he'd interviewed me once, and I liked Elvis. So Elvis said, Paul, really terrific work. And I said, Elvis, you have no taste. And he said, what do you mean? I said, do you have some time? And we were walking from there to to go to the after party. He said, well, come with me, get in the bus. And so for the next 20 minutes, I spend trying to convince Elvis Mitchell that Crash is a bad movie. And my wife is walking behind me, trying to kick me and hit me and eld me, because she thinks it's false humility. She thinks, which I'm also guilty of. But it's just, I know this is a terrible, terrible film, and I've just done a horrible thing. Thank God I didn't convince him.
Right.
And then the next day, of course, you see it, and it's a smaller screen, and the audience is very serious. They aren't really reacting that well. And I turn to Kathy Schulman, my producer, who's standing beside me at the back, and say, oh, we're screwed. But as it goes through, and they're off selling the movie at that moment, they're trying to, there's a bidding war supposedly going on. And I'm just hoping that they don't get wind of this audience. But as it goes through, I start being able to watch the movie and going, oh, it's pretty good, it's not bad. And so you leave there going, yeah, I did a pretty good job. Then you see the next time it's horrible again.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, in your life, in your process, where do you find the most inspiration? Like, what really inspires you to sit down and start thinking of stories?
It's odd places. A notion will get in my head. I've been thinking of something for the last year that I want to write about. And I just, whenever I get around somebody who knows something about that, I'll just pick their brain and talk. And so it's hard to say. Others, you read a terrific short story, or someone comes up with an idea, or I'm interested in so many things, but as long as, and so many genres as well, as long as at the center there's some great human dilemma, some question I do not have the answer for, and something that scares me.
Right.
If I'm really comfortable with a project, I just don't want to do it. It's of no interest to me.
Right.
It's only if I'm pretty sure that I can actually fail at this, do I want to attempt it.
Well, we have a little screenwriting exercise we think will be tempting, and hopefully you won't fail at it. Norris the tray. This is something we call the object. And the idea here is we're going to unveil this in a second, and you're going to see an object. And the trick is to tell me its story, no limitations, and then tell me why you made the choices that you made. Hit it.
The object, sir.
Oh, my God. Can I just steal an O. Henry story?
Absolutely.
This watch stopped running a long time ago, as you can see. Then people have been trying to wind it and to fix it, except it just won't. It'll always stay at exactly this time. I don't know why, because it was obviously just given to me, but I heard that it belonged to somebody in Latvia who, when the wall was coming down, he was they'd saved things over the years, from one generation to the next, because under the communist regime, it was very you couldn't do much with this. You couldn't, so you just sort of stuck them away, and it was a gift from, I think, his grandfather, and he needed some money, and so he decided to sell this, and it meant a lot to him because he loved his grandfather, and he wanted to have a big party for his family, and this is the only thing he had. So he made the decision. He decided to sell it. So he took it to the pawn shop, and they worked out a deal. When he took the cash, went home, and had the party, and they were celebrated, and he died that night. And the watch, the smith came in the morning, the clocksmith, and tried to fix the watch because it had stopped working overnight, and couldn't seem to repair it. Everything seemed to be working. There's no reason why it wouldn't work. But no one could fix it, and it stopped when this man died, and I think he died of a broken heart because he knew that his grandfather would have been very hurt if he sold this. So.
Wow. Now, that was a very emotional kind of definition for that object. Did that click for you right away, and why did you make that choice?
Oh, I had no fucking idea.
I think stories are always. You went kind of romantic with the watch.
I think all stories are emotionally based. Have to be emotionally based.
Right.
From comedies to action adventures. If you don't have the emotional center of a piece, then you lose everything else. And
is that usually what occurs to you first? Kind of the emotional content,
yes,
and grows
absolutely.
out from there.
Yeah, the circumstances don't. And this case is a cliche. The fact that it stopped it when the man died. But I knew that there had to be some emotional reason why this was handed to me, and therefore that was it. So you go for the emotion rather than the logic of what it is.
Early in your career, did you ever have a broken heart? Did you ever go through periods where you were totally dispirited and thought, well, this isn't working out for me? And if so, how did you get through those?
We all have broken hearts, and in life and in work. And it's, mine related more to my marriage dissolving and the guilt that I felt from that, and then how to take care of my kids. But being a writer, you get to draw from that stuff,
right?
And like I did with $1 Million Baby, and you also get to draw the hope that things, if you just persist, if you keep going, will change.
Right.
And in that case, my daughter and I, who were estranged at the time, came back together and we're very close now. And you have to have that same faith in your career that you get through those dark periods, and that things will work out. I mean, it's.
Have you ever read The Alchemist? You know
No.
that book, The Alchemist?
No.
It kind of has a nice theme about it, where if you follow your dream, the universe will reward you, basically.
Oh, yeah?
If you just keep on track,
I think it's so
good
true.
things will happen to you.
I think it's so true. Well, things will happen, whether they're good or bad. But at least you'll be happy in the fact that you're pursuing your dream.
Is that what got you through the dispiriting periods, just knowing that you were pursuing your dream?
Yeah, because failure, and success. I mean, it doesn't really matter as long as you keep doing what you love to do.
Right.
And that will carry you through. And
Right.
if you die having not succeeded at what you want to do, but having followed your dream, I think you're a success.
Right. Well, that's certainly true for artists that we all know and admire who only achieve success posthumously.
Yes.
Like they were right. The timing, sometimes the world has to catch up to you. Thankfully not in your case, but.
Yeah, well, but still, I'm 52 years old. I mean, it took a long time for me to figure out how to do this and do it.
But it's true. You can never really give up. You gotta stay the course if it's what you really believe in.
Yeah. I don't have a choice. We got to a point where I couldn't make any other choices to do this.
Has your screenwriting changed over the years? Have you grown into a style that's now your style, or do you think?
I hope not.
Right.
I think I love the. I mean, all writers love characters, and we all love the conflict that we find in them. I think that I would be able to write dramas and comedies and suspense thrillers and action adventures and still try and find those questions about the human heart that to which I have no answer. Do
you enjoy popcorn movies?
Yeah, very much so. I just saw Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I just absolutely loved it.
Right.
No, I absolutely, I'd love to write one.
Well, even though $1 Million Baby and Crash weren't obvious studio movies, since they were so successful, do the studios now type you as the serious guy?
Yeah, I love that.
Right.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think the New York Times and the LA Times both did an article on me, which is like, I had no idea why they were wasting so many column inches on me that particular week. I think it was like a war that wasn't on or something to cover.
Right.
But they both called me like the Prince of Darkness, and I went, oh, cool, I've got a handle. That's great, because you need a person to go to for dark, difficult material. Because usually writers have to fight to do the dark, difficult stuff, and people, oh, we've got this piece, let's give it to him. Love it.
Well, now I have a vision of them sending you their version of dark and serious, which is probably quite different than your version of dark and serious.
Yeah, no, I get sent a lot of stuff now, and both to direct and to write. I haven't found anything I've wanted to direct of someone else's work. I'm looking. It's always, boy, I hate writing.
Right.
And so I'd much rather just directing is as hard as it is. It's so much easier than writing.
Right.
So yeah, you look for someone else to do the heavy lifting.
Right. How important is discipline to your work habits? Do you have a rigorous routine where you set goals and there's a timeline? Do you set aside a certain amount of time during the day to work?
Guilt drives me. Guilt drives me. Yeah. So I know I have to write every day. We're not every day, 5 days a week, or as much as I can. During the story period, it's much harder because it's much more fluid, and I try to get enough hours in the day between everything else, is project circling and things you're producing or directing or planning or casting. So trying to carve out a couple of hours a day is tough sometimes. When I start to write, I give myself a goal of 5 pages a day, and I don't stop until I get that done, whether it's taking me 2 hours or 12. Sometimes if I get rolling, then I can write more. I can write 10 pages.
But that's your minimum.
Yes, my minimum is 5 pages.
And you find that kind of routine helps you get through.
Yeah, makes you push, because otherwise you'd give up on, you'd come to the tough part, 2 pages in, and you go, I'm going to give up. Well, if I have to get those 5 pages done, you have to push through.
And if you don't, the prospect of the guilt.
Oh yeah, because every scene you come to, know that the last scene was easy to write, but this scene is impossible.
Right.
And you get through that, and you see the next one, and you go, well, that one was easy to write, but this one's impossible.
Right.
Every single scene is usually like that.
Right. The new one is the impossible one.
Always impossible. And then the characters start talking to you.
Now, do you employ rituals when you write, listening to music or writing in certain locations, or? No,
I go different places. I've written here at the office, which I really like. Sometimes I was writing at home alone a lot. And I've got a nice setup where I have 2 screens, so I can drag something, an outline, and put it over here, and put my script over here. I can watch them both at the same time. And then that drives me nuts. I have too many phone calls, so I used to go write in coffee shops, and then they closed down my favorite coffee shop, and then I found this place, and I loved writing here. And then I go through. If you're working out a story or you're collaborating with, in this case I'm collaborating with a reporter, obviously it has to be someplace where it's conducive for that. But yeah, I like to be able to focus. I'm thinking of moving to Paris and writing there because with the time change, people can't get to me for 6 or 7 hours, and I could actually get some work done. Yeah.
Coming from being a writer, wanting to direct, did you encounter skepticism from the studio system? Oh, here's another writer who wants to direct.
Well, I was doing television, and thank God I moved my way up to executive producer, and so I just told them that I was going to direct this an episode, and they went, "Can you do that?" I went, "Oh yeah."
It would then be the network?
Yes, and they went, "Are you sure?" I went, "Oh yeah, just not a problem." So.
An executive producer in television is like the boss, the person
Yes.
who's running the show, as opposed to features. Sometimes there's 10 executive producers.
Exactly.
They don't even show up on set.
He's the showrunner, he
Right.
or she. I think the first thing I directed was a sitcom pilot. I did a very bad job of it. And then I tried to do a movie and got most of the way through it. And then the producers ran out of money. And
So there's a half-finished Paul Haggis.
it's on the
movie,
video
some-
shelves,
Okay.
actually. Unfortunately, it's called Red Hot. But I never got to cut it. I never got to do anything with it. And it was just, they before I got back in the country, they'd taken the movie most of the movie that was shot, and they cut it into a 90-minute piece by themselves and took it out. And it was a 3-hour epic.
How do you survive something like that?
That was tough.
Did that make you feel like I'm never going to get to direct again, or was that a
well,
dark period?
it was very hard for me because it had taken 3 years to
Right.
do that and to write it. And I wrote it with Michael Moore, a friend of mine, and it was a big historical piece we'd research. And it was about jazz under Stalin and rock and roll under Khrushchev. And it was a really interesting story. We'd done a lot of research on, and beautiful love story, beautiful father and son, all this sort of,
Right.
and they just, and so I ran back to television just screaming, saying, please, give me an area I can control, because as you're right, as executive producer, you get to do pretty much what you want. It made me very distrustful of going out and doing another film, so it took me 10 years to try it again.
Now, having worked with an actor turned director, and you're a writer turned director, do you think screenwriters make good directors? Do you think it?
Not necessarily. I mean, just like all actors don't.
Right.
I just saw Tommy Lee Jones' new film. It's wonderful.
Oh, something he directed?
Something he directed and starred in.
Right.
Really terrific. And it's really nice seeing people cross over like
Right.
that. I think if they think visually and if they like actors, they aren't terrified of them and are willing to study a bit about the techniques of directing and how to make a performer or an actor feel safe enough in order to create a character, then yeah, sure, they can make terrific directors.
Did you feel your production experience in television helped you prepare for a career as a director?
Oh, sure. I mean, as the executive producer and a showrunner, you stand behind a lot of directors, and if they do a good job, it's very easy. If they don't, you have to fix it somehow, and because the show needs to go out that way. So it certainly helped as far as story, and also as far as being just making sure the first draft is shootable.
Oh, so that's interesting. Your process now as a producer and then a director has informed your screenwriting, and your screenwriting's changed as a result.
Yeah, very much so, because I would never turn in a script, or at least I would try never to turn in a script, that I didn't think a director could shoot just as it was.
Right.
I wouldn't leave problems to be solved later on by other executives or other people, because it's just silly. It's your job is to solve all the problems, whether you saw them or they saw them ahead of time.
Right.
So when the first draft should be pretty darn close, because in television, if your first draft isn't close, you're screwed, because you're prepping next week's show, you're rewriting the show the week after, you're breaking the story for the week after that, you're in post in last week's show, you're doing the music for the week after, and you're dubbing. It's like you're doing all those things at once. If you fall behind in one script and they say no, you have to throw this out, you're screwed.
Right. So that machine mentality kind of gives you good skills to deal with virtually any situation.
And also, to make sure that when you have deadlines, you never miss a deadline.
Did you have a fear before you got to know Clint Eastwood or the actors in I know Dirty Harry on $1 Million Baby? Were you afraid, with such a name director, with such an institution as a director, were you afraid you wouldn't be involved in the process, or did you think it was going to?
Well, first of all, I know turning over to Clint, it was going to be his movie.
Right.
And so I'd done mine.
Right.
And the script was the script, and my job was then to give it to him. And if he had questions, which he had a few, he asked me what the relationship with his daughter was, and I told him what I believed it to be, and a few things like that. He asked me, and then he went off to do it. So no, he's a very gentle person, and so I knew I would be in good hands with him.
Right.
So I didn't have any fear of that. Working with the actors, but you always have the fears. I mean, you're working with. I'm meeting these people that I've respected my entire life. That people whose work I so admire.
Right.
The actors, the directors, and so that's always it. Right. It's tough. just to envision yourself having a conversation with them is difficult sometimes.
Right. Well, especially now with Morgan Freeman being the voice of God
Yeah.
in almost every movie. Just as a narrator, you're like, oh my God. It's
but you have to get over that very quickly
Yeah.
because you can't be walking around calling them Mr. Eastwood and Mr. Spielberg
Right.
because it makes them uncomfortable.
Right.
And after a while, very quickly, I just act like the same asshole I always am and just
trust in your own.
My own irreverent self.
Right.
Exactly.
Is there a fear you still have about your career as a screenwriter or a filmmaker that dogs you?
Oh yeah, a couple. One that picking the wrong projects to do, picking something for the wrong reason, because people will come at you with all sorts of stuff, and there's all sorts of reasons, seductive reasons to do something, to work with a particular actor or director or a producer or on a piece of material. That's being seduced.
Right.
And having to resist that is hard. Doing for the money is another one. Trying just to stay focused and knowing that you want to say something, whether that's in a small romantic comedy or in a political thriller, is the most important thing, I think. Just trying to make sure that I continue to tell stories that are worth telling.
Right.
That are worth it to me. I mean, it's something that it's something that troubles me that I don't, something that I'm trying to work out with myself.
Right. Is there one piece of wisdom, that you feel, as far as screenwriting goes, that cannot be repeated enough?
I think the one I've already said was repeat is always write from your gut.
Right.
No matter what the thing is, no matter what the project is, always believe that question you're asking yourself is worth answering or worth trying to answer, and then just continue to explore that.
Right. Do you feel like if you're telling a story that you want to see, that other people will want to see it as well?
You have to feel that. You have to know that you just have the confidence that if this is something that troubles you or something that interests you, that it'll interest others.
Right. How would you describe the movie-making process for a writer without the control of a director? Do you have to get prepared for things to get changed and mutated, and do you really have to have a thick skin about rolling with it?
I mean, I haven't had to do it, luckily.
Right.
In television, yes,
right.
but not in features. And it's hard. It's always hard to
right.
see something torn apart. Luckily, I've just been fired usually,
right.
and then the project didn't go. I've never had to see somebody else recreate it.
Right.
You can't get a thick skin because if you get a thick skin, you won't be able to feel what you need to feel in order to write.
Right.
So you have to feel every inch of that failure,
mm-hmm.
and being able to experience that and then move on and with the confidence that in yourself somehow. I think one thing I always did is from the very beginning I knew that if something didn't sell, it was my fault. It wasn't anyone else's.
Right.
And so I never blamed my agent, I never blamed my manager, things like this. I didn't beat myself up for it.
Right.
I didn't say, my God, you'll never be able to write. So you can't write right now.
Right.
So maybe next week you'll be able to write, and maybe you'll get better. And so I tried to learn lessons from those things. And I think it's too easy, especially in this town, to say, oh, it's the stupid producers, it's the stupid network, or the stupid
right.
studio. And I've never really met any stupid people in this town.
right.
There's a lot of bright people who just have different visions than you have.
Mm-hmm. I know you mentioned the other project you were developing with Clint Eastwood. Aside from that, what's next for you?
Don't know. I'm writing one. This is one I'm writing with Mark Bold, Death and Dishonor. That is the name of the article. I don't know what we're going to call the movie. A piece about it's based on a true story. I think we'll fictionalize it, about 4 men returning from Iraq, and it's a murder that happens at Fort Benning, and a father who finds out his son has gone AWOL and goes in search of his son, only to find out he's dead. And so it's talking about the nature of war and what we do to our men and women by sending them into it. And so I'm trying not to. It's not a political film,
right.
But it says if you're prepared to, if you left or right, to believe in war, don't believe in war. This is what happens when you send men and women off in that direction, and you better be prepared for that. So I'm finding that intriguing. And then we're doing a comedy for New Line, hopefully, in the spring. It's called Honeymoon with Harry, based on an unpublished novel by Bart Baker, that I really just love. It's
right.
this dark, horrible, mean-spirited comedy about 2 men in just intense pain.
Well, that sounds like a nice right turn for you right now.
Exactly, who just take
right.
it out on each other, and it's so we're casting it right now, and I'm hoping we can get that going in the spring.
Well, good luck with everything. Thank you
thanks,
so much for doing this. This was wonderful.
Oh, that's great spending time with you. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you for being here as well. Please remember to check out our other great interviews in the series. And remember, it all starts with you. The next written by credit could be yours. I'm Mike DeLuca.